A set of winter wheels for a brand new Porsche 911 costs £3,500.
So why buy wheels when you can buy an entire sports car instead?
So we've got a £3,500 budget and there are only two rules. It can't be a BMW.
And it can't be an MX-5. I bought this Nissan 350Z for just £3,200.
And for £3,500, I bought this Porsche Boxster 3.2S. How have you bought this for this price? And not only a 350, what does that mean?
You have spotted my bulge, and you've also spotted the lump in my bonnet. It means it's a HR, which is high revving. It means it's got 313 horsepower.
They sell for like £7-8 grand.
The next one up from this, £3,500, and it's write-off. This is a functioning, non-write-off car for £3,200.
How?
Auction.
It's the best place to buy stuff at the moment.
Also, I've actually bought this.
With your money, not the company money.
I could not turn this down, so I might be overprotective of it and very biased, but that is a bargain.
How many thousand miles?
106,000 miles with an MOT until next year. It's road legal, ready to go.
Ridiculous value for money. For the price of a set of wheels, you have a whole 350Z.
You cannot get better value for money than this in a sports car. There's no way.
A Porsche. Sorry, not a Nissan, not something my nan drives. A Porsche. It's not 2.5. It's not the medium 2.7. It's a full fat 3.2S with an IMS bearing done, with a sport exhaust. The interior is mint. And I paid £3,500 because of an auction.
Your auction as well?
Yeah, I bought it sight unseen, looked at some photos on the internet, went, that's enough information for me, mate. Put me in. It's silver. It's very silver. I describe it as silver.
It looks kind of pink.
It's silver.
It looks kind of pink.
It's silver.
You got a pink Porsche.
It's £3,500 though.
I'm not jealous, but that is very good value. One of these sells for
£4-5 minimum. At
miles?
102,000.
Less than me.
I looked through the paperwork. Specialists galore.
So enthusiast owned.
This car has been properly enthusiast owned. And I genuinely don't think, between these two cars, what's better value for money?
Either that or a set of wheels, and you can't drive a set of wheels. I think, quick drive.
Let's have a go.
But before we got them on the road, we needed to see which one sounded better. That does sound quite good.
Quite good.
But mine has had a back box delete.
£3,500.
That is the sound of my childhood on the PS2.
That is the sound of Need for Speed Underground, Trombone Class, and Fast and Furious. Very nice. Right, let's go.
Now, if I know Edwin, I know that he is immediately going to want to put the roof down, even though it is the coldest day of the year so far. But it's going to happen.
I don't make the rules. If it's a convertible, you got to get the roof down. Now, I prefer a coupe in most instances, but if it is a convertible, you got to do what you got to do. Here it is, my choice, a £3,500 Porsche Boxster S. 3.2 litre, 260 odd horsepower. That is crazy value for money.
Now, I've always wanted one of these cars, but it's never quite happened. But now, with the price that these are at, I could not say no. So I've actually bought this with my own money. That could be a mistake, seeing as we didn't even look at these cars, but I think I'm willing to take the risk.
Now, Will's car, it is Need for Speed Underground 2, and that is far more special to me than a Porsche Boxster. And obviously, a 350Z, it's trombone season. It's sounding ridiculous. I don't know, I think this gives it a good run for its money. What a noise!
Now, my dad actually had a very early one of these years ago. I would have been a very small, thin boy back then. It was one of the coolest things ever. My dad had a 350Z. I was just sat there in that passenger seat, exactly like that, and I thought it was amazing. This is the car I put a body kit on Need for Speed. This is the car I watched someone drift around a curly-whirly thing in a car park.
Now, I'm not really a Boxster man. I much prefer 911s. Boxsters aren't really my thing. In fact, my dad had a Boxster in the early 2000s and he sold it after less than 24 hours. It was always ingrained in me that Boxsters were not to be touched. I tell you what, for the value for money over what the cheapest 911 is to get into, I wouldn't shake a stick at one of these.
I feel like these have almost been kind of forgotten about a little bit. Maybe it's because they get quite rusty. Maybe it's because they've all been drifted into hedges or had wide body kits put on them, or supercharged or turbocharged or generally ruined. But I think, here's a bit of financial advice. This isn't financial advice. I think this is a good buy at the moment. Look after it. I don't think you'll lose any money on it.
One thing that I'm not so happy about on this car is that Will has an LSD.
But what it means is I can do a skid easier than he can. I've no doubt that he will try, but I got the tools. Meanwhile,
here we go, out of a slippery junction. Open diff, not so nice for me. I have to say, from behind, I feel like I'm playing Need for Speed in third person.
I'm also in Tokyo Drift. This is the coolest thing ever.
Quick question, are you planning on ripping that e-brake and powering over anytime soon?
No, I wouldn't have thought so, but I might head to the local multi-story and see if they've got one of those little curly-whirly things. I might just drift all the way around it with supreme precision.
But overall, for £3,200, you're happy?
I am over the moon, and I'm going to say it. I'm not jealous of your Boxster, but that is ridiculous value for money for a mid-engined Porsche.
I'm going to say it too. I'm not jealous. I'm very jealous. But your 350 is very cool. Usually Will and I are either trying to buy each other horrible cars or trying to put down each other's cars. I honestly think we've both won here.
With both of our cars driving great, we got them back to the unit to take a closer look around them.
It drives nicely.
It drives very nicely.
It's a cheap 350Z. There are issues. The elephant in the room. Why has someone stuck on building lights?
There's normally a reflector here, which doesn't look the best, but it looks better than that. That is an AliExpress special.
So that's going in the bin?
Yep, that's going in the bin. Look, sometimes I like black badges, but I don't like it on this.
Bin.
Also, the Z.
Oh, I love this. This is the Z350Z.
The bonnet does appear to be a slightly different colour to the rest of it.
I'm not going to make fun of you for that. You know, it happens to the best of us, so we won't worry about that.
Headlights are all yellow, that could do with the polish. But front end, other than that, it's not too terrible, it just needs bits. We have what tyre is this? This is the Auto Grip.
A royal black on the back here. We have another Auto Grip. Here we've got a Victra Sport 5. 3 brands, 2 different postcodes, matching.
Speaking of that area, I have rays. Also, these are quite light, those wheels as well.
Inside, there's something straight off the bat.
My knob?
Your knob needs changing. Your bulge is lovely, but then your knob itself has to go.
Also, someone has painted the centre console dash plastics. The quality of the job is what I would have done when I was 21. So look, I understand, I've been there.
Yeah.
But don't.
The passenger seat is lovely. Can we get a check on the driver's seat?
The 106,000 miles is not that much.
No.
That's actually kind of worrying.
Previous owner was hungry. He thought, you know what, might just have a quick bite of my seat. But pretty stock. For a 350, these cars tend to be, what's the best word to use? Ruined by their owners.
Riveted arches, a nasty wing. You've probably tinted some lights. You've probably painted your wheels green.
I get it. Need for speed. That's why.
The boot space, I don't know, probably has a performance gain, but now I can't put all my shopping in here.
But sports car people, golf clubs are going.
Golf clubs are going. Possibly 2 lots of golf clubs.
Ben, you golf. You have golf clubs with you?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh, that's not fitting. There you go. Look at
I'd say that's a pass.
that. Pass.
But a fail then.
Fail, yeah.
Because you now can golf.
I can golf.
But a pass because it's in.
Hold on. There's actually instructions for how to fit a golf bag. Sorry, sacks to golf. Always have to look under the boot carpet because you never know what you might find.
You have to check what's under there.
You've got a piece of plastic.
I can see them all.
Oi, jump leads.
You're joking. Let's see this is what this is. We've just gained 3 jump leads.
Exactly. Engine.
The pièce de résistance.
And it's all standard. It looks it's very mucky under here.
Now, for how many years have I been going on about the fact that 350Zs have the worst engine bay ever known to man, and I will die on that hill.
Outside of a Subaru Boxer, I'm going to agree, it's hideous.
Apart from this one, the HR has 2 intakes that come off either side, whereas the normal 350 has one that goes with this horrible intake plenum. But this one, you got the big boy. They're pretty reliable. 350s. Like, there's not much that goes wrong with it. You say there's an oil gallery issue?
This engine in particular is one of the only ones that has an actual major issue. There's something called an oil gallery gasket. So it's a little gasket, part of the engine, and it's actually made of paper. The holes, as part of the gasket, they ovalize, and then the bits of paper, they sort of disintegrate and they end up in your oil. You can tell, because you start to lose oil pressure, but oil pressure's good so far.
There's not that many issues with this whole car in general. The biggest issue is Japan, and therefore, a synonym for Japan, rust.
Worried for what we might find, we got the 350 up in the air to take a look underneath.
Moment of truth, because this is your personal car with your personal money.
And these rust quite badly.
And we genuinely haven't looked under this yet.
Ooh! That's very new.
That's brand new.
I do know from my little paperwork search, it did say it's been wax oiled at some point. That's a good thing if it's preventative, but not if it's covering up rust. Yeah, so these are my cats.
Oh no. My cats have gone.
You know, an exhaust could be on the cards.
I'd call it light-hearted rust.
No leaks or anything from the gearbox, which is nice. It's also had a relatively recent clutch, which is nice.
Now, you told me as well that part of the reason they sound like trombones, this guy right here.
It's a V6, so you have manifolds on either side of the engine, but then it comes into one pipe in the middle. This is what you call a Y pipe. If you've seen Tokyo Drift, you will notice that the 350Z in that film sounds very, very different. It sounds almost straight six-ish.
Yeah.
And that is because it is a true dual exhaust. So that is two pipes that go all the way down the back of the car.
Never meets.
There is no one. They never see each other, those guys. I prefer this sound. It's more unique. It's 350Z.
You know what it is? You know it's a 350Z.
It's 350Z. I'm not going, oh, is that an E36? No.
This exhaust is completely standard until this very original looking clamp here. And then he goes, my back box has fallen off.
Top Gear! I've got a Top Gear exhaust.
Good hell, Jeremy, mate, when did you make this?
This exhaust looks good quality, which is nice to see, but just cutting a back box out, it's normally not the best. No. If this had a smaller, less restrictive, less suffocating back box, it would probably be better. I think that might be on my list, is a better exhaust. But for the money, I was expecting worse.
Should we get the Boxster in?
Let's have a look at the Boxster. It can't be better than this. There's no way. Your pink Porsche.
It's not pink. It is Meridian Silver, I have you know. And you know what? I like it. It's got the turbo twist alloys, which are nice. Those are off. You tend to find them on the later ones. My private plate, which is worth thousands and thousands of nothing.
Bought by a dyslexic Porsche owner.
If you want to buy this plate and you're a Porsche owner, it's 10 grand to you right now. Or
you own a P90 submachine gun. You're Harry Carroll Edgar.
Then please get in touch. This is a bad thing, but it's also a good thing. The person that's doing this is not ragging this around. He is the sort of person that's polishing it every single weekend. He's got it under a car cover. An older gentleman, let's say. Black interior, quite literally unmarked. I mean, we've worked on 996s with this sort of interior before.
We've not seen it this clean because of the one that we've worked on. We're like, oh my God, it has all of its buttons.
You haven't seen this yet. Are you ready?
Here we go.
Not one, but 2 pairs of Ray-Bans. Would you like to buy these from me?
I'll take them. How much?
Genuine Ray-Bans, £50.
45.
50.
45.
55.
50.
50 done. Sold. This car cost me £3,450 now, and I'm up a set of Ray-Bans, and so are you. This, again, another sign that the previous owner, he's an older owner. Oh, that's lovely.
There you go, clean.
No one ever saw a difference.
5 grand.
That's lovely. Not as expected from the previous owner, but welcome. Spacers.
Sort of a 15 to 20 mil spacer. That's someone who went, I need this to sit right.
And then when we come to the back, my rear bull bar.
That's an interesting exhaust pipe.
It is an interesting exhaust pipe. When we get it up in the air, I will explain more. Oh no, mate. Let's take that one out. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I can't have this one. I can't have this one. I can't really have that one.
There we go.
That's in.
You're not going to have friends. You have a Boxster.
I'm ready for a day out with my Ray-Bans and my golf clubs. So I'm ready to go out and be hated by everyone. Ben's quite a fan of this Porsche, so now he's got one.
HMS Brown has been knighted.
With that, we got the Boxster inside to have a proper look underneath.
Everything under here just looks kind of clean. My bushes are good, they're well trimmed, they're maintained.
Also, like full under trays, which is nice.
Also, always Porsche. You can't see anything on them.
This is very, very clean.
Will, how have we done this?
How have we gone from the Cadillac and the limo to this?
So, one of the big things on these engines, Boxsters and 911s, when you try and take these exhaust manifold bolts out, they snap. None of them have snapped, can't see any like drill marks from where they've tried to retap them. Got a little bit of what looks like a little bit of an oil leak from here. Look, someone has taken this to a proper shop. They have paint penned the marks from where they've put bolts up. Normal people aren't doing that. This is good to see. On 911s, I don't know if they call it the same thing on a Boxster, but it's called a gundo mod. That pipe, he comes around and he goes into the muffler and then pops out the muffler, out the back here. You bypass the muffler with a pipe that comes out of here straight into your tip. You get a nice bit of noise from this one, which jumps past the rest of the system.
Both cars were looking surprisingly clean, but we're not experts. We wanted someone who actually knew what they were talking about to have a look at each one. So we started by bringing the Boxster to specialist Northway Porsche for a mini inspection.
We're here with Ray from Northway Porsche, the owner of Northway Porsche. My dad and I have brought many terrible Porsches to him over the years. Is this going to add to the list?
No, to be fair, it doesn't actually look like a bad car. Okay, so the exhaust is at a modified sort of cut and shut, but you could pay a lot more for a very similar thing. So yeah, I mean, that's good. It's definitely had rear lower arms, it's had brakes recently. It's got all the later type core packs in it, which is quite cool. The other usual suspects are brake lines where they never get replaced in there, but they all look like they've either been done or they're in really good nick. Exhaust flanges have all been done, like these corrode away, but it's all been nut and bolted back up. But rear main seal, which is always leaking is actually quite dry.
This car was bought from an auction, sight unseen.
You?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only two things he said in the paperwork was this, and it had an IMS done.
But what is an IMS? Well, some Porsche engines from this era have a rare but worrying issue where a badly designed ball bearing can deteriorate and cause catastrophic engine failure. Luckily for Edwin though, the Boxster had already had its bearing replaced with an upgraded part.
If you have a modified intermediate bearing, you normally have a clutch at the same time, so you're looking at 1,500 quid plus. Yeah, front end brakes are, again, almost look like brand new. Springs have been replaced, front coil springs, they all look good because that's another common fault on these, they snap. Shocks are rusty, but as in rusty bodies, not leaking, so again, they wouldn't even been MOT advisory. Yeah, it looks like actually not a bad old thing.
How have I done this? How's this happened?
It's an accident. It's got to be an accident, surely.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you buy enough, you're bound to get it right eventually.
The moment we arrived and you brought it in here, you touched the door and went broken.
Oh yeah, door latch, yeah. So when you look at this door latch, that window should be down to allow it to shut, and it's not dropping. See? And the fault will be this door latch here on that side.
But that's just a little door latch. That's
Yeah, like 100 quid or whatever. Yeah, and easy to fix. It's clean, isn't it? I mean, obviously, in terms of options, it's just got leather seats, 3-spoke steering wheel. But yeah, obviously, 6-speed manual box and an S, which is great.
something like this in this condition, current market. What do you reckon it's worth?
You can't buy anything even worth considering under 5 grand.
If I said that we got this at auction for 3.5 grand out the door, good going.
Yeah, it's a cheap car. Yeah.
Compared to, I don't know if you saw the 350s out there. What are your thoughts on that?
Leave over there.
So aside from needing a new door latch, my Boxster seemed to be a great purchase, and we were hoping to say the same thing for Will's 350Z, so we brought it down to Horsham Developments for its inspection.
So we are going to put both of these cars on a dyno in just a moment, but before we do that, we have come to Horsham Developments to have the 350 looked at, because this is what they do.
But first, do you want to reveal the price straight away?
£3,200.
That's incredibly cheap.
And it is a HR. What is the first thing you'd look for on a cheap 350?
Rust is the first thing, obviously. Gauging at the cost that you paid, we would expect it to be pretty rotten.
And Will, you checked that before you bought it, right? You checked for rust?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, yeah.
There's no like bubbling on arches, there are no holes underneath, there's nothing falling off, and that's a win.
It's really good for the cost.
I did have a minor coolant explosion this morning, just before I came in. It's my fault, I checked the fluids the other day and I didn't put that cap on properly, so that's my problem, not the car's problem. Other than that, anything else you spot straight off the bat?
Apart from the pink residue, I guess from the coolant leakage, first thing sort of springs to mind is the radiator support looks like it's from a DE. The reason for that is you've got 2 intakes. You've only got 1 airflow for the intake here.
So a DE is an earlier version of a 350Z.
A DE is like the original version, yeah.
Why would they change that?
This bonnet does look like a slightly different colour to the rest of the car. And also I did notice, I think the radiator looks slightly shinier than possibly it should be.
This may hinder performance because this is essentially just sucking in hot air.
So different crash bar, different radiator, different bonnet, potentially different bumper.
They're all at the front of the car.
Maybe you just wanted to replace them.
Yeah, I
just
think
like
so,
just
yeah.
a new one. Just thought, spruce it up a bit.
It's probably been in a bump.
Yeah, it's probably been in a bump, yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask about, that was the oil gallery gasket.
The oil gallery gaskets as standard tend to weep, and then that gives you very low oil pressure on idle, which isn't ideal. Yours is fine. I checked your oil pressure at operating temps and you've got high oil pressure, so
What is the rough cost to get that fixed?
about just over £1,000.
Whoa, so that would take you closer to what an HR works out as.
So that's a win. Obviously it may still fail, but right now it works, so not bad then for the money.
No, it's great. Yeah, I guess we'll see what score it makes.
It was time to find out how much power these budget sports cars were making, but this time we're upping the stakes, because for every horsepower lost from the factory figure, we're each going to lose £5 from our modification budget. 313 is standard.
Yeah.
I'm down an airbox.
You did say that would make a difference.
Until I found out about that, I thought 304. I'm going to stick with 304, but
You're committed. Here we go.
we're revving. 60. Oh, Will!
280! You are 33 horsepower down.
33 horsepower down, that's quite a lot. That's the number the original 350Z made. As the first one was pretty low, the guys at Horsham did a second run and got a slightly higher number. So we convinced them to do one final run to see if they could squeeze any more out of it to save me some money.
Oh, Will, you might make another 5.
Oh, no, yes! 283.7!
That's still a lot of power to lose.
350 dynoed and will 145 pounds poorer, it was the turn of the Boxster.
It's 252 standard. My prediction is 240. Off the charts. Go on. Off the... Yes! 249. That's like 3 horsepower.
Oh, that's 15 quid.
Oh no, mate. 15 quid. Oh no. My 15 pounds.
I think that's a win for you.
100%.
That's not bad at all.
3 horsepower from standard. That is a good car. But I think both of them, we've both won.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Those are 2 very good cars for cheap money.
This is my super cheap Nissan 350Z. I bought it at an auction for way under the market value.
But of course, it does need some things fixing.
It's losing power because it's had the wrong parts fitted after a crash.
It hasn't had a proper engine service in 3 years. The exhaust is very boomy.
And the engine never gets up to temperature. So we're going to fix all of those things and throw in a few modifications and get this car back to its former glory.
I've got a £1,500 budget, although I'll have to sacrifice £145 of that money, as in the last episode we decided that for every horsepower my car had lost from the factory figure, I would lose £5. Luckily for me though, this 350Z only cost me £3,200, so I've still got £300 left over from my original budget.
So first order of the day is a service. As far as I'm aware, this car hasn't had a service in almost 20,000 miles and 3 years. And on a car like this, that's probably been treated quite hard, that's no good. So we're going to drop the oil, have a look, and put some fresh oil in.
Clean work. That was a very clean pull, Will. Colour's not terrible.
So potentially it's been changed in the last 20k.
So yeah, someone just didn't have a receipt for it. He didn't put it in a stamp.
Or it's burning oil in that time and he's kept topping it up and this is fresh.
See, I like the way that sounds.
So that doesn't look bad at all. It doesn't look as old as 20,000 miles or 3 years. So that's a plus, but we'll get new stuff in there, new oil filter, and away we go. Right, oil in. No, drain plug in.
While we were under the 350, we drained the coolant ready for our first fix.
Ooh, that's coolant on the hands. That's never a nice feeling. There it goes down the arm.
Bro's got a kidney stone. And the good thing is it looks like coolant.
That's a good colour for coolant to be.
So you might be wondering why we're draining the coolant, and that is because this car has a dicky thermostat. So when we mentioned that the car doesn't get up to temperature properly, that is because of the thermostat, and Edwin is now going to explain that.
All it really does is it's a door. It just opens and lets coolant through. So your engine, while it's running and getting up to temperature, the coolant circulates within the engine, and once it gets too hot, this little door opens. He knows the temperature he needs to open at, and the coolant will come down into the front of the radiator. The air will cool the coolant, and then colder coolant will come back into the engine, and that temperature will pop right back down to the degree that it should be working at. When these thermostats get old, they can sometimes get stuck open. The coolant is running around the engine all the time and not getting as hot as it should be, because your engine needs to be at a certain temperature to work as best as it can.
This was £50. Also, this is a cool running one. This will open earlier, so it doesn't let the engine get quite as hot before it starts to cool things down. It's just slightly safer.
So with the coolant system fully drained, we got on with installing the new thermostat, which meant we'd have to remove the air intake.
I'm taking the airbox out because the thermostat is just down there. I may need to remove this bottle as well, but also I'm putting new air filters in anyway, so perhaps a couple of birds and one stone. So a blueprint filter came out and I'm putting blueprint filters back in. There are 2 in this car, we'll get to that in a bit. So a massive thank you to Blueprint. If you're looking for OE matching parts, Blueprint and Febby Bilstein, they're your boys for all the parts. All of the service bits I'm using today are all Blueprint or Febby Bilstein. So let's slap this back in his box.
New filters in, we got on with removing the old thermostat.
Your pipe is so stiff, Will.
Please don't break my pipe.
I'm trying my best not to. Wait, what the f has it got to? What the f? So this was here, the Jubilee, undid that, took him off, and went, cool, Mr. President, there has been a second clip.
They just didn't change the thermostat, they thought if I put another clip on it,
It has to work.
yeah, surely it gets up to temperature.
Clean work, Will. Pop.
Only a little. So if we take a look at the new part, we can see that I can't see anything. Whose dog is that?
There you go. Ugh, definitely needed.
Ooh, it also looks old. Now that is going to be way better.
With the new thermostat in, Edwin decided for some reason that it would be a good idea to clean the engine bay, and once he'd made it sparkle, we moved on to the next thing.
I'm going to take the wheels off because I'm going to put some new tyres on. I've got 3 different brands of tyre on this, and I've also got a completely flat tyre at the back, which was nice to come into this morning.
What the hell?
What a stupid contraption. Oh, and then you go in there.
That's classic 350Z activities. Could service it. No, instead I'm going to buy some shiny locking wheel nut bolts.
Wheel off, I was surprised with something quite cool.
I've got spacers. I just spotted that on the other side. I was going to buy those, and I couldn't get them on my budget, but here they are.
It didn't look like it.
It didn't. And H&R spacers, that's a spendy boy.
Edwin then got busy cleaning again, so I removed the rest of the wheels.
This is the one that had the flat tyre, like proper flat, and there is the reason why. But that's fine, because I'll now have 4 matching ones going on.
Calipers cleaned and looking fresh.
There we go. It's a bit better.
We dropped the wheels off to have some new tyres fitted, and then came back to finish the service, which went well.
Wheel! Slow down!
Well, you just pulled him out!
You are spilling it all over the floor. Look at this.
With that done, it was time for some bodging.
So I'm putting the airbox, which is the part of the intake system for this car. As you can see, there is a hole there. When I put it down here and fit it all up, there is also a hole here. On the other side, that hasn't happened. We found out last week when we took this to Horsham Developments that this panel here has likely been replaced from an older car, which have 1 intake. This car has 2 intakes, so there is no air getting into the airbox, or there's some, but it'll be very hot air. It's not the air I want. This whole panel here goes all the way down here. It's the whole radiator support, so we're gonna have to make a hole.
If there isn't a hole, let there be one.
One thing I haven't checked is what's behind this. So far, so good.
Pilot holes drilled, I was ready to cut, but not before I'd put on some safety equipment.
Oh, that's just the right size.
Listen, if you feel more comfortable without the safety equipment,
I'll take it off.
So with that, I cut a professional looking hole in the 350's front end.
Air hole. This hole has been cut, but as you can see from this one, it has a hole here, but it also has free rein down here. Much like our toilet, he is blocked.
Bumper now removed, we cut open the blocked section so that air could flow freely again.
So that is the hole cut. It's not similar, but it's in the same area, same kind of size as well.
Why didn't you buy a new one?
I actually couldn't find one with both holes, but the one on here, some of them are 3, 4, 5, some of them are 600 quid.
Even one for this correct car would probably be pushing up towards £1,000.
Yeah, I could have sold this, but it's going to be a few hundred quid. Also worth noting is that obviously, I think this may have been in a bump, a very small crash. Car Vertical won't have spotted this because they probably didn't go through the insurance.
He was 21, right, when he owned this car or something like that?
So if he had a crash in this, and he told his insurance,
No matter how small.
doesn't matter, he would have been ruined for it. So those kind of things, they don't go through insurance unless you got scouts on the road going, he's just had a crash. No one's ever going to know. People cover it up. Those things are hard to find. That is when you need to be eagle-eyed, like we weren't.
No.
Front end put back together, it was time to fix the 350Z's noise problem.
Next up for the 350 is to remove this back box delete. Now this isn't the worst job, it's quite nice. It's not loud, but it's a bit boomy. It's just not the right noise. I think you can do better with a better system.
350 people though, loving this sound.
You tell them it's antisocial, boomy, it'll give you a headache.
It's a straight pipe, it's deleted the back box.
Everyone will hate you.
Yeah.
Sold. So I've got an even better system, a properly made system from a proper brand. This is a Scorpion system from the cat's back. So that is that white piece up there, then the cat back section into an actual back box.
Into very Will spec tips. Big tips are Will's forte.
567 quid for the cat back. It's tough on my budget.
Hold on. What about the white pipe at the top?
Scorpion, they love us.
You get free parts.
They said that could be free because otherwise it won't fit in my budget. Let's try and get that one off.
But that would be harder than expected.
Here we go. Cut the rusty nubs off. Oh, sorry, hello.
As you may have heard from that, you heard rusty nubs. It's just become one.
I've already used the drill with a wire brush to clean them up as much as possible, and that's the after.
He's now quite round.
So we took the only logical next step.
Clean work.
This piece cut off and disconnected. Now we can take the rear section out.
Which went well.
Ah! What's all that then?
This 350 is pretty excited for getting new exhaust on, I'll tell you what.
Yeah!
Who wants to buy the Top Gear exhaust? Made by Jeremy Clarkson himself? Not true at all. A few of you commented that you had Top Gear exhausts. It is a proper business that makes nice exhausts.
Not as nice as the Scorpion.
Stop. You get me in trouble.
They're in bad condition.
Well, we saw this before. I don't think I actually made it into the video before we mentioned this, but that is speed bumps at speed season.
When a flexi blows, it makes a really horrible noise.
Ugh, it's a terrible noise.
It'll be nice to get rid of those.
And after some more cutting, they were gone.
Ow, that did hit my head, but oh well.
With the old boomy exhaust out, we removed what was left of the seized bolts,
There he goes.
and I got the shiny new Scorpion system in.
It's the next morning. Ben has gone home to edit some of this video, which means that Edwin is now behind the camera. The exhaust is fitted, got it all together last night, just finished up some bits this morning.
You know what I describe that as? Rambunctious.
The Scorpion exhaust is actually a nice exhaust. So putting it all in, it just fit. First start, and it's a cold one.
That is
Much better.
That's so much better.
That is like considerably
That's so much better.
quieter, but in a good way. First rev, it's now up to temperature. Oh, a slightly different tone.
Yeah, that sounds more Need for Speedy.
Yeah.
Happy?
That is so much better. Okay, so next up is the wheels. They really kind of need a refurb and a proper clean, but that wasn't in my budget. I would have also liked new wheels, but it wasn't in my budget. Previous owner put these center caps on. Also, someone put Z on the badges. Someone basically took every single Nissan badge off this. Be proud, man. It's a Nissan. Get over it. I have bought new center caps. £8.
That's so much better.
After a clean, these wheels are going to come up really, really nice. They're not perfect, but they will look better. You'll also notice new tyres. These are Accelera PHIRs. I would like some wider wheels maybe with some nicer track tyres, some fancier looking stuff, but the exhaust was most important for me, and also I've got a big chunk of my budget coming later in the video as well, so I wanted to save something for that. We do have a discount code for Tyre Streets. We always use Tyre Streets for all of our tyre stuff. It's not just Acceleras that they do. They've got Michelins, they've just got Continentals, they've got loads. They've got off-road tyres, track tyres, road tyres, drift tyres, which we might have to test out at some point, but these will be good enough for me.
I then went to put the wheels back on and noticed something quite worrying about the previous owner's wheel setup.
So the fronts are narrower and they sit inside a little bit more. Basically, you should have the same on the front and then the other two on the back. Now, I could tell which ones had been on the fronts because they're the ones with loads of brake dust on them. These are the two that were on the rear. Very clean. This one says front and this one says rear, but these are both the clean wheels from the rear of the car. So I had not only different tyre brands on every corner pretty much, I also had the wrong wheels. If this was a four-wheel drive car, it would be having issues probably at that stage.
Very upset.
So let's get these on properly. So for people who haven't seen the last episode, there is a considerable tear there. It's a weird tear for 106,000 miles.
There's also some residue looking sort of stuff.
Fortunately, there's so many spare parts available for these cars because people are probably putting some £30 bucket seat in here. So here is my new seat, £50 this cost me. This is a driver's seat. As we can see, there's a little bit of wear, but there are no holes in the bolster there. And I'm also hoping this might fix one of the very weird issues with this car at the moment. I'll show you that. So, driver's seat. It should go back and forward electronically. If we push back on this switch, he goes forwards. I push forwards, it goes back. I step in and I think, oh, my seating position is not quite right. So I'll go forwards.
So do you want to go
Yeah,
forwards?
I'm just going to go forwards. And then
You know in Indiana Jones when he quickly swaps things out, he swaps the bag of coins for the precious treasure. That's what the Nissan's doing.
if I get under there and I find twist and tape and electrical tape and bad soldering, I'm going to be very upset.
But what Will found was much, much worse than that.
Oh, God.
What? Oh no. Uh-oh. Oh, it's for that Y pipe from earlier. That's good to find in your car. You like to see that, don't you? If you were a doctor or a pharmacist and you recognise this blue pill,
Tell us what it means.
With Will now full of energy, he removed the seat in record time and discovered what the likely cause of the electrical issue was.
You join me cross-legged on the floor. There's wiring here that doesn't look too factory because it's two different lengths of wire and someone has joined it in the middle. Doesn't look too Nissan to me. Everything else is basically exactly the same on these seats, but the connectors for the airbag, as you can see, are slightly different. I'm going to put the wiring from the new seat into the old connector because it will fit, and then this should be nice and easy. No cutting, no soldering, no messing about.
New seat in, I tested to see if the issue had been resolved.
Now, the front switch goes back when I go back.
it does it correctly. Here we go. Actual moment of truth. There we go. You no longer have a weight-sensitive seat.
Interior is done. What I've done is I put some leather dye on the worn bits, so on the bolster there and on those orangey bits. I think that looks way better. Silver gear sticks around with the original leather gaiter as well, which I think looks way better. So that's the interior, basically done. The next order of the day is these black badges. But this, I got some replacement Nissan badges. Again, this says Z.
You got some fishing wire, you going fishing?
And I've masked up with Top Dead Centre tape, which you can buy from topdeadsea.com, as well as t-shirts and gloves. We've got lots of gloves.
Old badge removed, I cleaned up the residue with a cool new tool.
This is a toffee wheel. It is not made of toffee. This is designed so that you can put it on paint. It won't burn through paint. I'm just scrubbing that guy off.
Residue gone, Will installed the shiny new rear badge.
He's now looking like the car he was born to be.
That is such a small thing that makes this so much better.
While doing the front badge, I noticed something that also pointed to this car having had a new front bumper.
That's orange.
That looks like 350Z orange.
More orange?
There's some orange under there. Remember like our Focus ST? Tried the orange front bumper for a while and then went, you know what, let's go back to grey.
Don't worry about it. You definitely didn't crash into someone.
Badges installed and looking great, it was time for the final visual tasks.
I want to polish up these headlights.
I have tried polishing headlights multiple times in my life and I've ruined every single set. Can you teach me and also the viewers how you do it?
I don't really know which pad I'm using. I just try to be a bit more careful with it sometimes.
That might be my number one issue.
I use a compound and then maybe a slightly more heavier cut or like a medium cut polish and just sort of gently keep on going through it. See if you can make it a little bit clearer. And then the other thing you need to do is coat them afterwards.
And why do you mask it?
Now, getting on the paint is probably not the end of the world. Under here, there are rubbers. If you get polish on those rubbers, you're just going to get a nasty white stain on it. You'll see it on some cars. They've just thrown a polish around the car and you'll have these horrible lines everywhere where there's just dried polish. Also, if you're doing a wet sanding or anything like that, if you slip and get it on your paint,
goodbye paint.
So again, what I'm using is slightly more forgiving. Cut back to me when I've messed it all up.
But thankfully, I didn't mess it up at all, and the 350's headlights came out looking better than ever.
Now, would you look at that?
That is already a big difference. At what point do you introduce the scuffs and scratches that I like to put in them?
On the third go.
The third go.
Yeah, and then you just want to coat those scuffs with the protection.
So they stay in there.
So they stay in there.
With the headlights looking genuinely great, Will installed a new number plate and then moved on to the final visual touch, giving the 350 a proper clean. This is so good. It has gone from a cheesy remake of Fast and Furious to Gran Turismo 4.
So, front, new number plates, new chrome badges as well, rather than the Z badges, polished headlights.
So good.
Under here, we've done a service, a new thermostat, new oil filter, new air filters. We've also cut a hole just under here so we can now get air to that intake. Now, these nasty aftermarket LEDs have gone. There should be reflectors in there. I did have reflectors, but it turns out they were the wrong ones because I think this is the wrong bumper. So I've just left them as like a vent. Wheels have been given a good clean, and also we have the correct wheels on each corner now rather than odd. Overall, the bodywork now looks much cleaner now we've actually cleaned it. This has never had a clean since I picked it up. This has just been dirty ever since. So inside, I fitted a new seat, standard seat. This was £50, and then to replace some of the worn bits on this, I've used some leather dye to cover up the wear on the bolster. Also, it now works as it should with all the electrics. I replaced the gear knob surround with an original one, which is the metal finish, so it matches the steering wheel and the bit on the dash. One of my favourite bits though, at the back. That exhaust, it's way quieter. Some of you might be going, oh, it sounded better before, but to live with and to drive on a road trip, which is what we're planning on doing with both of these cars, that is going to be way better. I think the tone is slightly better as well. Also, it's a shiny new exhaust system. You can't beat that. That looks nice.
It's just a nice, clean 350Z.
So now we're going off to Horsham Developments to get this car tuned, see how much extra power my hole has made, and also see if they can squeeze some extra out of it afterwards. So we are here at Horsham Developments now to get the car remapped. Last time we were here and we had the car dynoed, the guys told us off camera that it might have been remapped before because the fueling was a little bit funny and it was potentially a little bit dangerous. Now, while we might not make massive power gains today because it's NA, we are going to make it way safer and much nicer to drive. This is the final chunk of my budget, £450.
£450, but if it means the car survives, it's kind of worth it.
I'll take that. The guys at Horsham are going to do a baseline run now to see if our intake hole and our servicing and our other bits have made any gains.
Oh,
a bit more mid-range. Oh, 286. 3 horsepower roughly.
Off cutting a hole in a car. Now, this car, it's not turbo, it's naturally aspirated. So we're not expecting to see the gains that we saw on our 335i, for instance, or when people make 1,000 horsepower on a Supra. Like, we're gonna see a few horsepower at a time at most.
With the new base power figure, Jez from Horsham Developments installed a new base map to see how it would work on the car.
So he's going to do another run now to see what sort of gains he's going to make there. Then after that, he's going to fine-tune the map to try and get the best gains out of that car. So let's see what it runs now.
Look at it climbing! Will!
288.8. We're making gains.
We're making gains.
We're now 5 up on our original number.
With the base map giving us a little more power, Jez fine-tuned it to make it absolutely perfect for Will's specific 350, and after multiple runs to see how much more we were making...
291! That's a tiny bit more.
293! That's a good game.
we had a final number.
I believe this is the final run. Here we go. Oh, yeah, you picked up a bit there.
Tiny bit.
Oh, there's some more!
Surely.
293! 10 horsepower on an NA car. It's natural. We don't have a turbo here to just keep upping the boost. So 293, 10 horsepower gain is significant on an NA car. You'll feel that.
Okay, so that's the mapping done. Almost a 10 horsepower gain from what it was last time.
Cars that are tricky or there's something wrong with them take quite a long time to map, and this one was as I'd expect, you know. All the fueling did exactly as I expected. It was a little bit knocky, which is detonation, but I've tuned that out, and the fueling's been mapped so that it's optimal for power now.
That's not bad. Almost 10 horsepower.
Yeah, it's
for what
really
it is.
good,
And is
yeah.
that roughly what you see from those
It
gains
is.
wise?
Yeah, we normally quote between 5 and 15 horsepower gain, which is what you've got. The air intake temperatures were all good after you've made your extra hole in the front there.
So basically, all in with the mods and the fixes I've done, I'm in for just under £5,000. So for that on a HR, that's pretty good value.
That's
right?
really good value, yeah. Normally they go for a lot more than that.
I'm over the moon with it. It looks way better now. All of the badges and the headlights, everything looks way better. I'm so pleased with it.
I bought this super cheap Porsche Boxster for just £3,500, around £1,500 cheaper than they're usually worth. So I want to take that £1,500 saving and use it to buy modifications to make this Boxster the ultimate cheap Porsche.
I've got a £1,500 budget, although I'll have to sacrifice 1% of that money, as in the first episode of this series, I agreed to lose £5 for every horsepower lost from factory.
Now, this is a Porsche, so mods can be hard to find and expensive, so Edwin might not be able to get much for his budget.
However, I do have a few tricks up my sleeve that mean our money will go a little bit further. Now, this Boxster is a clean, low mileage, really quite nice car, so I'm not going to ruin it with modifications like a lot of you in the first video that we did with it thought I would do. Shame on you. What I want to do is make this OEM Plus.
Which is what the manufacturer might have done had they been given a bit more free rein to do what they want with the car.
Just a little bit nicer. Someone who doesn't know as much about cars might think it was factory. And the first thing, for me, it's always wheels. I actually quite like the wheels that are on it, but the only Boxster I've ever genuinely loved was the concept car, which came out in 1993, and it had these wheels on it, Speedline Cup splits. The price of those that last sold was £19,000. So the combined value of what we paid for our cars and all the modifications together could buy one. But I bought a set. There you go. How did I afford those? Because they're not real. They are replica wheels. The original ones are simply too expensive, and these ones cost me £695. We're gonna gain a little bit of weight. Of course, the original Porsche wheels are better. Oh well, I'm putting them on the car. The tyres on the original wheels were quite old, so I replaced those as well. Some Accelera 651s from Tyre Streets, but they cost me, it comes out my budget, £400.
You're well over £1,000 deep, and we're at the beginning of the video.
Yep, we're gonna get these on, but first, I'm doing a little lesson on how you work out fitment and how you make sure that things like this fit in your car, because a lot of people comment about this often. There's going to be a few different numbers that you need to work out. Firstly, 18. That refers to the size of the wheel. The diameter, it is an 18-inch wheel by 7.5. That is how wide this wheel is. This is a 7.5-inch wide wheel. And then the last number is ET50. If you're German, you know it stands for Einpresstiefe. All that number refers to is how far in or out the wheel sits. All you need to know is the higher number the ET is, the further in it will tend to sit. The lower that number is, the further out it will tend to sit. One of our new front wheels over there has these figures, 18 by 8 ET 50. In theory, you might think because this last number, the ET number, is the same, it's going to sit in the same place. But this one is 1/2 inch wider. So with those two numbers, you can sit down and do maths for the next hour and a half to work out how far out it's going to sit. But why do that when they made a website that can do it for you? We've put in 7.5 50 and 850, you hit calculate, and then down at the bottom, not only is there a diagram, there's also a little piece here that tells you what happened. Compared to your old wheel, the new wheel will have an inner rim that will be 6mm closer to your suspension strut, and the outer rim will poke out 6.3mm more than before. Mike, behind the camera, you've never done wheel stuff before. Do you reckon this wheel can afford to come out 6mm?
Oh yeah.
So we know our new wheel, he'll fit straight on, but I'm not sure how much closer to the inside we can go. We're gonna get 6mm more of poke from our new wheel as it stands, and then I'm gonna add a 7mm spacer to push it out just that bit more, give us a bit of safety on the inside, and give it a bit more of a mean look on the outside. Because this car has a staggered wheel pattern, i.e. the rears are wider than the front, you can't use that same measurement on the front. You'll have to do it all over again. Work out your numbers, put it in the calculator, and see how far you can poke it out. Let's get it back up in the air and see if my calculation is right, that that wheel will even fit on there without a spacer, without any other work. Right, we're there on the front. We've got space on the back too, but two things. Firstly, we've still got space to come out.
A little bit.
You got to fill it. That's how you get good fitment. I've got some spacers laying around from the Porsche, which will cost me nothing. But the second thing that's not good is this gap right here. Obviously, we're on a lift right now. That space is bigger than when it's on the floor. But even then, don't like that gap very much. We're gonna get some lowering springs on this car.
It was time to start modding, so I removed the wheels, which went well.
There's a locking wheel nut. Hold on, do they do this in F1 where someone goes, hold on mate, the locking wheel nut, we forgot that one.
Just in case someone nicks your wheels, like, and you're on the grid and McLaren come up and rob them.
Hold on. Time!
Big thank you to Draper, who sent us out a load of tools, including this impact driver. We never had one before. We were normally stealing the one from this unit, the very unit we're in. We're now stealing the whole unit, but we've got a load of tools in our unit. So massive thank you to Draper. Also, this is really good.
It's really good, actually.
Really, really good,
Very
actually.
good.
Wheels off, I had a favour to ask Will.
Can you polish my lights for me?
I will polish your
Because
lights.
I still don't trust myself doing this. What I can do to make your life easy is I can pop the headlights out.
Oh yeah, this has the easy thing.
The really cool thing that Porsches have.
This is cool.
He just looks like a little knob, doesn't he? You take a little 5mm, a light. And some of the eagle-eyed viewers that view in the last episode would notice. This is called a Bosch Litronic light. And these are worth £1,000 used. These are xenon headlights that perfectly level to the road and wherever you're going. These are really rare and really sought after for these Boxsters. And we got them with the car for £3,500.
These will come up a treat. If they don't, I'm sorry.
But there was no need to be sorry, as I worked my headlight magic once again and made them shine. But while I was busy with that, Edwin was having the fight of his life trying to remove the old suspension.
What was in there? That was...
Good Lord.
They Loctited it.
All four?
Probably all four. Don't do this, people. Loctite the bolts that need Loctiting.
I'm about to give way. I'm about to give way. I'm gonna pass out.
Yeah. Oh. When we took this car to Ray Northway, one of the two things that he said was actually wrong with it. There was only two things. The window dropping down, and he said the struts were quite rusty. When I ordered my H&R springs from a company called Design 911, who we bought a lot of stuff for our white 911 from, and when I ordered this, I got a message, I got an email saying, hey, you keep buying stuff just at normal price. Do you want a trade discount? I said, yeah. And they said, also, we'll throw in some parts if you want. So they gave me brand new struts for free. To go on those struts, I have H&R lowering springs. These I paid for. These were £220 from my budget.
Yeah, at least you paid for something.
Okay. And these are supposedly about a 30mm drop, which is
30, that's quite a lot.
quite a lot.
It was then time to remove the remaining 3 struts, and the issues that we had while removing the first strut continued.
A bolt goes through here and pinches this together and holds your strut in there. All you have to do to get this bolt out is undo the nut on the end of it, and this simply slips out, except it doesn't, because whoever worked on this car previously has put Loctite of some degree on every single bolt. I will now demonstrate what you have to do to get a bolt out that simply slips in. Cut the drop link off, and what you then need to do is grab one of these. Bear in mind, this should come out by hand, it should just slip out. And now, bolt out. That should have been a 5-second job. Original strut out. The strut, as Ray said, as he told us, looking a little bit crusty, but the springs looking in good condition. I might be able to sell those springs and get some of my money back. All we have to do now is get this spring off, which is time for, Will, the scariest part of working on cars. But it doesn't have to be as scary. You have something like this, a spring removal tool that's not the death compressors. Simply going to stick this in here, pretend you're doing a hoe down or something. Or you're a Honda person trying to get out of a parking space. Or
an Uber driver on the brakes.
Simply take the top nut off. Keep note of which order things go in. This lives that way up. He doesn't live that way up, and he doesn't live under him. And now this guy simply comes off, and there is your old spring. And there is our old strut versus our new one. And this thing is a dust boot. That cover just protects dust from going in there. This on the top is a bump stop. If you go over a really big bump, this contacts first so that you hit rubber on rubber instead of metal on metal of your damper bottoming out. So stick that on first.
With that, I reassembled the suspension in the same order I took it apart in.
There you go, that is ready. That needs a final tighten. I tend to do that when it's in the car, on the floor, so you have the weight of everything pushing against it.
Before Edwin could go any further, he needed to remove the rear suspension. But one thing about this car's design would make that pretty tricky.
Where we have our shock tops, there is an engine and a convertible roof. So we have to get around that. So Porsche have given us a little access bit. There's one of them. The other one is under there. It's a bit harder to get to, but we can. And then the other one, we pop the boot open to get to. And then you can get in from in there. What a terrible thing to work on.
Another reason why convertibles are whack.
If you haven't heard that, Will and I have had a lengthy argument about convertibles on our podcast. If you haven't listened to our podcast, go listen to our podcast. It's called Cars Rule Everything Around Me on Spotify, YouTube, on our second channel. Also subscribe. We keep forgetting to tell you to. Please subscribe. You know, if you like it, stick around. If you don't,
Stick around.
why are you here? But also stick around. This is a great place to store drugs if you're smuggling stuff. Oh, I didn't realise the camera was rolling. This is a great place to store shopping if you needed extra space.
Rear shocks easily removed. I got rid of a visual feature that I really wasn't a fan of.
A lot of you commented in the last video that these are actually very important because they stop debris going into your front radiators and clogging them up. Is it worth it to have something that looks like this on your car? No is the answer.
That looks just better compared to holding back chickens and WhatsApp.
It's a new morning. I went to fit the dampers, the new dampers, and they weren't the correct parts. So I rang up Design 911. They said, no worries, we sent you out the wrong parts. So instead, we'll send you another set. And this time, they're Bilsteins. That's a come up for this car.
It's annoying is what it is.
Hey, but they're still free. And I'm gonna build this rear while Will sticks that front one in.
In he goes. Very nice. There he goes.
Lovely.
Fresh Bilstein strut in, it was time to install the new drop link.
I spoke to Ray Northwaite, and as you can see here, there's none of that Loctite stuff that they had put on here. He said that it's common for it to come with Loctite on it, but it has the correct amount so that it should still slide in and out. What he thinks is that someone took this out before and re-Loctited over the Loctite that was already on there, which is why it was so permanently seized in the car. So we can chuck our new ones in. That looks perfect in there. Shout out Design 911. Thank you very much for sending these over. I want to see it on the floor, sitting all nice and low. Let's get the rest of it done.
With the rest of the struts put together, we installed them and then moved on to our final fitment modification.
All 4 struts are now in. The car is ready to go back on the floor. But as I explained earlier, we were going to use some spacers to get the fitment sit a bit more flush. And we have 2 different types. Will has got a non-hub centering spacer, which in theory is a bit of a no-no. The car has these outcrops here, which center your wheel. So because these spacers are not bigger than those, that can still center the wheel. So it doesn't matter that this is non-hub centric, but the rears are 10. Still not that much, but to be safe, see this little bit that pops out? That now acts as our hub centric ring. And now you still have that ring that centers your wheel and keeps your wheel safe for when you're going at speeds. Time to get these fitted, put the wheels on, see if my calculations work.
But before that, we needed to do something very important that most people fitting spacers forget about.
Will, how many times have you taken off a wheel that someone else has installed a spacer on and it is welded to the wheel?
Yeah, because they didn't use grease.
Here is your case in point. Our original wheel that had a 20mm spacer on it. There's the 20mm spacer. Will, please, with all your might. You can use a little bit of copper grease, smear it on the face, not on your brakes, put it just on this part here, and it will help a little bit in stopping it welding itself to there. And also to reiterate, the front ones I stole off myself, but this one, they cost me, I think it was £52. Ben will put on screen how much it cost. It did come out of my budget.
Spacers in, it was finally time to get the new wheels on and find out if I'd improved or ruined this cheap Porsche.
Moment of truth. Let's get that on. Ooh. Now these are the big ones. These are the important ones. The rear dish on these should be quite nice.
It's like doing drugs, Fredwin.
This is true.
Getting the old fitment dialed in.
It's just such an instant, nice change.
All 4 wheels on, it was the moment of truth.
Also, who's going to be the first to say it? It'll settle.
It will settle, mate.
Oh, keep on coming. That's nice. Oh, this is exciting. These are good.
You know what? I think you've undercooked the front.
We probably could have gone for 15s, but for safety's sake, keep it there right now. And then when it inevitably annoys me so much, I'll go out and spend my own money and get bigger spaces. Look at them though, with the chunk of the tyres.
They're brand new springs. They need time to settle.
It never does, but it will.
The new wheels paired with the suspension and spacers made the Boxster look so much better, and I was thrilled, but there were still some little mods to do.
So the strut, wheels, tyres and springs were the main bulk of what I wanted to do to this car. I'm going to do my final big mod, which, come on in, Ben. This Porsche interior is basically mint, and I like basically everything about it. But one thing, look how long that throw is from here to here. So instead, for just about £80, you can get this short shifter kit. But that's not it, because I wanted to finish it off with a new gear knob. And what I really wanted was a Carrera GT gear knob. But I rung around, and the cheapest price I could find was £800. I've gone a different route because I couldn't afford it. I'll show you that in a minute once we get there. Luckily, because we already did this in our Porsche 996, I know how to do this. And you'd think for a Porsche, it'd be quite hard to do. It's not. Now that our center console is off, you can actually see how gears work, because the gearbox usually is under where you're sitting, but not on a Boxster. Our engine's back there, and our gearbox is somewhere like here. So you have your cables down here that run to your gearbox. Whatever I do here, you'll see that these cables move. If I move it to the side, that moves back. If I move it to the other side, it moves forward. Within doing that, it chooses the gears. So we want to mark the places that they came out so that we know to put them back about the same amount, because if we change that, it could start pulling out of gear or into gear where it shouldn't be. So we'll let that dry, and that's our mark for where we need to go.
Edwin then removed the old gear shifter mechanism, ready for the new one.
This is our gear shifter, and what holds the actual shifter in are these two white bushings here. Always make sure you don't break the parts. There we go, there goes that one. Oh, there we go. As compared with this one, the actual part that it levers on is a little bit shorter on the new one. So that is going to give us, especially with the fact that it is metal and not with these plastic bits, give us a nicer, tighter throw for not bad money. I think it was 70 or 80 quid. You can find these on eBay. You can find Design 911 have them. We'll swap this part over, stick it back together, put it in the car.
So that's what I did, and meanwhile Will was installing my shiny new number plates.
It's all in, it's all back together. Oh, and it's so notchy. But this guy right here, get him out of here. William, if you'd like to do the honours, please. Thank you very much, William.
I'm ready for this. This is peak Porsche mods.
As I said, a Carrera GT knob is £800, and inside is a Beechwood gear knob from Built by Basil. He's a guy who basically custom makes any gear knob you want. Got in contact and said, do you have something Carrera GT looking? He said, yes, £80 out of my budget. Of that,
Literally 10%.
the final point of the Boxster.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool. I'm happy with that.
It's also much better than that. That is one of the worst gear knobs ever attached to a performance item.
What finishing touch.
The mathematicians among you may work out that I've gone over budget, but that's okay, because lots of the parts I'm taking off, like the wheels and the original springs, are in good condition, so I've sold them to make some money back and bring us under our £1,500 budget. I was absolutely over the moon with all of my mods, and the Boxster was looking amazing, so the finishing touch was to give it a proper clean.
There it is, a £3,500 Porsche Boxster with £1,500 of mods, which I think has made it into the ultimate cheap Porsche. I'm not a fan of black wheels, I never have been, but black centre split rims, to me, I'll allow it. Will behind the camera smiling, like I've put black wheels on a car. I know, yeah.
You've done it before I have, which is a surprise.
Will was right. I could have probably pushed that front out a bit more, could have gone a bit more aggressive, but let's keep it safe, no rubbing. Visually, it might not be that different to you, but overall, the package of the car, I think, has changed immeasurably. Wheels, £695. Then my tyres, they're about 400. My dampers were free. If you're upset about it in the comments, you're upset about it.
I'm upset about it.
Will's upset about it. General cleaning, always nice to clean. And then finally, the last little touch, that little gear knob. It does lean across to the left quite a lot. I actually left it that way, I quite like it, because I'm very tall and my knee goes right where 6th gear is. So now that it's leant over a little bit nicer for me. I took these grills out here. My intention was to paint them black and put them back in. I haven't had time yet to do it, but those will go back in if you're complaining in the comments that they actually serve a purpose. I know, it's okay.
I mean, I think the best bit is those headlights. They're looking so clean.
I'm very sorry. I genuinely am very, very pleased with that. Will took that nasty yellow haze off. And also, another little bit, nice new number plates. Makes such a big difference. Do all of the little bits, the all cheap little bits, it will all come together to be a very nice, clean car. Anything you would have done differently?
I probably would have just bought a 350Z if I'm honest. We bought sports cars from an auction for less than the price of winter wheels on a brand new Porsche 911.
And today we're going to take them on a 500-mile winter road trip to see if they're up to the test or not.
So this is the car I bought. It is a Nissan 350Z that I paid just £3,200 for. First thing we did is we serviced it, new filters, new oil, all the usual stuff you should do when you buy a car. But also I had to cut this hole here to get air to this airbox. And that is because we think this car has been in a crash. Because not only is this bonnet a slightly different colour to the rest of the car, the bumper is orange underneath. So I had to cut this hole and that gave me some extra power. So after that was done and the service, I had the car remapped at Horseman Development and this car now makes over 290 horsepower. But my favourite mod of all of those is my exhaust. That is a Scorpion catback exhaust that I spent all my budget on, but this sounds so much better. It used to have a back box delete that sounded awful, but on this road trip, that exhaust is really going to save my ears. Next thing I had to do was some new tyres. This car had 3 different brands of tyre, and this one was completely flat, so I got some new Accelera tyres. And finally, the thing I did is I replaced this driver's seat because the electronics didn't work, and I had a huge hole in this bolster, so I got this seat for 50 quid, and now everything works as it should.
And for the price of those same Porsche wheels, I bought an entire Porsche Boxster. This cost me £3,500 and it's the proper full-fat 3.2S. Now my car was a pretty good car, so I focused most of my budget on aesthetic mods. I started with these, some replica split rim Porsche wheels, topped with some Accelera 651 tyres, and then behind it, we've got brand new Bilstein struts and H&R lowering springs. Very nice. And after giving the car a proper clean, I topped it all off with a Carrera GT inspired gear knob and short shifter.
We left early that morning for our much anticipated road trip, and this was the first time either of us had driven our cars since we modified them.
So how have my upgrades changed this car? Well, from where I'm sitting, not really that much. I went for more of an aesthetic upgrade on my car, but that's the beauty of it. You might not be that happy about the fact that I put replica wheels on it and some lowering springs, but that's what I would do. If you had the same budget, maybe you'd do it differently, but that's the beauty of modifying cars.
This is my first time driving this car with everything fitted and everything fixed, and it is so much better now. I would barely be able to hear you right now if the old exhaust was fitted because it was so boomy and horrible at these speeds. Whereas now, I'm in 6th gear, just under 70 miles an hour, and I am cruising. Now, we are on our way to the side of the country that I've actually never travelled to. Never been this far over west, so this will be interesting. We could have gone into Europe, but we got a whole country to explore ourselves. And of course, Edwin has got the roof down. As per usual, it is probably 3 or 4 degrees right now.
It's a convertible, so therefore the roof has to be down. Let's get to our first stop, and this one's a cool one.
What a lovely grey day. Little bit of golf. Cannot wait for 18 holes out in my sports car.
Well, what are you doing? There's a skid pad here. We are at Thruxton's skid pad because they said, do you want to come over and learn some car control for the day? They have got a purpose-built skid pad for you to bring your own car. You can bring your personal car here and just learn how to do skids and learn how to control your car in different environments. And so that's what we're here doing today. So I'm up first in the Porsche.
Just going to do some warm-ups. Edwin's never done a skid before, I don't think, right? You've never seen him do a skid? No. So this is his first time, right? Yeah, so let's see how he does.
Hello. Oh wow, that is interesting. That was just zero grip there.
This is Edwin's idea of heaven.
Oh yeah, it's just a slippery piece of tarmac. We've been searching for this, and then Thruxton have come up just trumps with, yeah, we got one of those. Oh God! This looks very slippery there.
No, no, it's got nothing. Oh, this feels embarrassing. I unfortunately do not have a limited slip differential. It's a little bit harder, it's a 360.
I've seen Edwin spin a few times, at least this time it's in a legal environment.
I cannot tell you how frustrating this is. All I care about in this world is doing skids, and I can't do it.
Ben just said, do you think Edwin feels humbled?
Oh, I'm so annoyed. Why did I not spend my money on an LSD? Right, your turn. No! That's one of the most frustrating things in the world. It's also incredibly fun. But here's the thing. I'm annoyed because I like drifting and I couldn't do it. Will's going to be annoyed because he's incredibly competitive. And when he can't do something, he gets really annoyed.
Ah! Very slippery here.
There we go. Look at this. Yes! If you ever wanted to know the difference between an open diff and a limited slip diff, it helps you do that.
It's awfully slippery. I'm going to try second gear. Yeah, no, second gear ever so slightly too much. It's awfully slippery out here.
I'd like to see a left-right slalom up here, please.
Let's have a look, shall we?
Here we go.
Ah!
Oh!
Ah!
Here we go. He's got it.
No!
Did you hear him go, no?
I don't have much grip at all.
To determine which car was really better for drifting, we needed to hand them both over to an unbiased third party. So we drafted in our videographer, Ben, to let him decide which was best. But there was a slight issue with that.
This is his experience. It's none on the road. Okay. Never even owned a rear-wheel drive car.
Yeah.
And he said the games he's driven on is just with a controller and it's like Need for Speed and stuff. Also, never seen Tokyo Drift, so he doesn't actually know how to drift. There we go, we're going straight on.
Oh my God!
Here we go, Ben.
Here we go. No, that's tarmac.
That's okay, though.
Oh,
That was Ben's first skid.
I'm skidding! I'm doing a skid!
Look at that wheel. Yes, Ben. Look at him go.
Oh, and this is where I spin.
Sounded like he was at about 13,000 RPM doing that.
That was great fun. Well, I fear I've ruined Will's car.
Look at him. Oh, this is the box that suits him.
That's Ben.
Here we go. Porsche doing skids. This thing does not skid as easily.
Turn the traction off.
Traction control's on, I've just been told.
I did think, I was like, wow, it's very reserved. You can tell he's got the traction off now because he's spun. Oh, he's getting angry. He's getting angry.
No!
The 350 or the Boxster?
For this, the 350.
That's a win.
Ooh, it's a dub for the 350.
But how much do you want this now?
I really want this car.
You're not allowed to enter the competition.
I know. Do you know what I can do though?
I mean, there you go.
Unfortunately, all of the messing around on the skid pad seemed to have taken its toll on Will's 350.
You have broken my car, Ben. It is definitely misfiring.
It's a good way to start a road trip, isn't it?
Thanks, Ben, mate.
Yeah, Ben.
Cheers for that.
Ben, crazy,
No worries.
mate. You broke his car.
You broke the most reliable car on earth.
We checked everything that could potentially be causing the misfire, but there wasn't anything obviously wrong.
This is not the car that was meant to break down.
No. In our very scripted video that this is, the Porsche was supposed to break down, and what was it, like 100 miles away?
We're only on scene 3, and scene 5 is when this breaks down, yeah.
We can't let them know. very, very upsetting, I will admit to you.
So, to investigate further, we tore down as much as we could from the top of the engine, and in doing so, we made a discovery. We did find that what I can assume is part of the PCV or part of the secondary air pump was disconnected.
After reassembling everything, we went for a startup, praying that it wasn't the end of the road for my 350 before the trip had even begun.
I've done unplugging and reconnecting. We are so back, boys. Do you know what? It could have been the pipe.
Let's say it's the pipe.
It's the pipe that was off.
Also, if it breaks now, it'll be under your watch, so I didn't break it.
No, but you started it.
Road trip saved. Back on we go. A genuine massive thank you to Thruxton for inviting us down. They said we could use the skid pad for free. So if you guys want to do an experience yourself, or you can bring your own car if you want to break your 350 like Will did. They have the skid pad, they have track day experiences. You can go in Alpines, Mustangs, there's an M2 there. Off-road course, the go-kart track's cool. Click the link in the description to check out Thruxton, book yourself an experience. Thruxton have a load of offers available in the lead up to Christmas, which make perfect holiday gifts. And the team were nice enough to give us a code TDC to use, which will get any of you watching a free extra on any Thruxton driving experience you book, like free photos, free videos, or even free cancellation cover.
So after Ben broke my car, he broke my damn car.
We broke it.
Ben broke my car. I heard him rev it to 18,000 RPM. My engine light from my misfire has just stayed, but I don't have a misfire, so I'm not going to check the engine. But I have got ABS and stability lights on, which I have tested and can confirm I have no ABS. That's really nice.
We are heading to the lovely seaside village of Weston-super-Mare.
It's the middle of November. Let's go to the beach. We're in sports cars. Sports car and supercar owners, they go abroad, they go to the south of France. So we are going to Weston-super-Mare.
I absolutely love the English seaside. A beautiful grey expanse of rocks and sharp pebbles.
I'm quite looking forward to it. Ben has told me that Weston-super-Mare is one of Britain's top 10 beaches.
We headed off to relax at one of Britain's best kept secrets, Weston-super-Mare, where we were greeted by a breathtaking coastal town.
Well, this is certainly Weston-super-Mare. They've got bowling, there's a police station.
Beautiful day for it as well.
Let's find somewhere to stop and we'll go and do see.
Oh, also car park. You know what that means? Noise. It still sounds so good.
With the cars parked, we headed out to explore this iconic seaside town.
This is going to be, you know, you get the heat wave on holiday.
Coming out the big airplane. Whoa.
Whoa.
You know, it's so hot that it's humid.
I don't know, it's so hot. I'm just going to put my hood up. Right, I need an ice cream.
We're on holiday.
Ben, I asked you, because this is your end of the world, what's the best beach over here? And you said, I will go to Weston-super-Mare.
There's a beach near me.
What a beautiful day for the beach.
The sea is miles away, Ben. I came to the seaside and the seaside's over there.
God, what a lovely day to hate life.
You know, if I was a dog, this would be great. I think once you go past that bit, it gets busier.
All beaches everywhere in the world are shit. This is one of the good ones. Beach explored, Will went in search of an ice cream.
Do you have any ice creams by any chance? None at all. Okay, I'll have a think, thank you. She looked at me like I just asked for a diced elephant. That's how bullshit it is to get an ice cream here. No one else asks.
Oh well, beautiful day for it.
So, with no ice cream in sight, we checked out the rest of the town's attractions.
Even Winnie the Pooh can't handle Weston-super-Mare.
That's legit around his neck.
And after we'd had some fun,
very blurry,
this is great fun.
We got back on the road towards our next stop, feeling positive about our experience.
Didn't get an ice cream. I lost on the arcade, and I'm overall quite miserable actually.
Clearly, we are here in the wrong time of year. It's quite a lot nicer in summer.
Edwin, did you really enjoy the beach?
My day is uplifted. Now that I've caught some rays, I'm ready to carry on. Our stop at the arcade was actually quite key because do you still have some of that change left over?
I have got £4.
That is very good. Keep that £4 with you. We will need that at our next stop, which is quite cool. I don't think many people will have heard of it before. So with the sun setting on this rainy seaside town, we pushed ahead deep into the countryside towards our next stop. And before long, we made it there.
Just
Just up here, you might see it says the word private toll road for light vehicles only ahead. But there's a twist. This toll road gets used for rallies and racing.
It doesn't feel like they'd have an actual toll booth here. It feels like it would be a goblin handing out tickets or something.
When we arrived at the toll gate, it was closed, but thankfully an old school solution presented itself.
If the toll keeper is absent, put the money through the door slot and close the gate.
There's a door just there.
Please place the money through the door slot.
You are paid.
You may enter.
Have a good one.
What if I don't pay?
The goblin underneath the toll bridge will know.
Fees paid, we got on the toll road.
Now, for reference, the only toll roads I have ever experienced in this country have been massive motorways. Loads of toll booths, it's all electronic. I have never come to a toll booth and had to pay £2 through a wooden door.
Oh God, I don't like it. It's very bumpy. I can see why they said it was about rallies more than it was road racing. Well, are you enjoying this new rally stage that we've found?
I was just saying, it's not exactly the M6 toll, is it? It's very, very bumpy.
Ah! It's so bumpy!
I feel like I should be down here in a Mark II Escort, going absolutely balls to the wall sideways. My Welsh or Scottish co-drivers going, and it's to left, don't cut, water hazard, then it's long 6, left to right, over crest, hazard, mind the house and the sheep.
This is becoming less of a joyride and more of a trial because I am feeling my wheels slipping under me a little bit and don't really want to slip back into Will.
Soon enough, we reached the end of the slippery, bumpy toll road. Luckily, we'd heard about another one nearby that was meant to be much smoother, so of course, we had to check it out.
But unfortunately, just as we were about to arrive, my car started making a horrible noise, which sounded like one of the car's new dampers had collapsed.
Well, we might have had one too many bumps. There's a smell and a noise.
After checking each strut and making sure that nothing had obviously failed, we looked under the car and were relieved to find the reason for our horrible noise.
Crisis potentially averted. I think we've just picked up a big old twig under there. Look at that. That was quite scary. We were just driving it, just started going... Away with you, foul beast.
With that moment of fear avoided, we got back on the road, soon arriving at the second toll road.
Oh, here we go. Here's the second toll booth.
Please leave toll money in box.
£3 for this one.
That's what I was going to say, I've only got £2.
I've got £10. They're going to get a tip. If this was big toll road, I'd be okay with skimping on it. But it's just a lovely little local toll road.
Well, it is a manor estate though, so they probably
That's true, they're probably fine without it. Right, give me my £10 back. Here we go. Now this one, I know, is paved and also should be quite fun.
There's a very twisty bit coming up.
Oh, hairpin. This is cool. Go on, Will. Good stuff. Yes! This toll road has speed limits, so you got to be sensible. But luckily, it's Monday at about 7 PM, so there's not really anyone on it. This feels Japanese as heck. I'm following a 350Z with autumn leaves flying out from behind it.
This is much better. I just wish I could see.
We are in England on any day other than August the 4th, so therefore it is raining.
This looks mental. I'm in the Shire. I had no idea a road like this even existed, and yet here we are.
If anybody wants to go on this, it is Porlock Hill Toll Road, and the one we went on before was Worthy Toll Road, and I can tell you for free it is not worthy. I'm happy with that. I've always wanted to go on that road, and now we've done it. Let's turn in for an early night, hit the roads again in the morning. You can win the Boxster for less than 20p.
That is right, we have collaborated again with LLF Games to give away one of our cars, and I think this might be our best one yet. If you get in there early, you can get a ticket for just 15p, and the tickets are only ever going to go up to 19p.
You can buy one ticket, you can buy 1,000, you can buy none. We really don't mind. If the car sells just one ticket, it will go to whoever wins it, and we hope that one of you guys watching it right now wins it.
So make sure to get your ticket, you check out the link in the description, and we are off to Dartmoor.
Good morning and welcome to Dartmoor National Park. One of the best roads that I've ever driven in my life is about 15 to 20 minutes away. But even now, looking ahead, just at the beginning, look at those roads snaking up there. It was supposed to snow today, but it's all looking fine. It's a clear sky, and we're gonna enjoy the last part of our road trip on some of the best roads England has to offer.
We sort of drove through a little bit of this last night, but in the dark, so I don't know what any of it looks like. But now in the day, even with the weather like this looks good. I think we make the most of it.
I paid £3.5 grand for this car, and Will paid £3,200 for that Nissan 350. We did get lucky, of course we did, but that doesn't mean deals like this aren't out there to be had. Buy one of these when they're at their cheapest through late autumn and winter, enjoy the hell out of it, and then sell it in the summer and make some profit. If you can, it's not a bad way to enjoy a car.
So we enjoyed our 2 budget sports cars across these stunning Dartmoor roads, loving every second of it.
That was a good road.
But you think this is better than what I'm in on these roads?
Before this trip I wouldn't have, but now I do. I believe this is actually better.
Well, how about for this next bit of road, which is also quite good by the looks of it, maybe we swap cars?
Okay, well, there you go, sir. Right, now I have a bit of a confession to make. I drove this car back after it had its engine mapping done, and it drives so much better. From what this car started as to what it is now, this is a really good car.
I have a loathing for convertibles. I have a deep hatred for anything where the roof can go down. I'm gonna admit one thing, in this scenario, this is all right. I've got a heater that's very powerful. I've got thousands and millions and squillions of miles of headroom, and also I can hear that exhaust note. And again, I'm going to admit, that does sound very good.
I mean, I'm not going to tell Will this, but this car is so much quicker than the Boxster in every way. The amount of power is perfect for these roads. You wouldn't want anything more.
I'll admit I've never ever been a big fan of this generation of Porsche in general, but I can see why someone would argue this car's corner.
What a car!
After taking in the incredible scenery and enjoying each other's cars on the great roads, we pulled into a local pub for some lunch and a chat.
Thoughts?
I think that might be the best value you can probably get.
I don't like convertibles, I said this in the car, but because you've got the engine and the noise right behind you there with the roof down, it kind of makes sense. I can kind of hear the convertible thing. We're like roughly in for what, £5 grand for both cars?
Basically £5 grand all in for a sorted, well-driving, well-running, nice car with history is crazy. Should we go in, have a bite to eat, and then finish out our road trip back in our cars?
Over lunch, the debate continued about which car was truly the best, but with both being so good in their own ways, we just couldn't reach an agreement. So we headed back out in our own cars for one last blast on the Dartmoor roads.
So we have just had lunch, more arguing about which car we think is best. I still think it's my car. This is just cool, it's just better. And it has an actual roof.
Coming into this series, I was a little bit apprehensive to take a Boxster because I've never been a fan of them. But this car is truly a really good one. So I hope whoever gets this car enjoys it as much as we have, because it has been fantastic on this trip. If I put £3.5 grand back in your bank account, would you go for a different car?
I would have this car every day of the week.
Agreed. And as someone who was looking for other cars in this budget and kind of settled on this Boxster, I now would absolutely go out and buy this exact Boxster again, because it is good. This is a really good car.